Bava Batra, Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph. Rather be true than be right. Khozir v'toen. Yesterday we had a situation where Rava questioned Rav Nachman, his Rebbe, and the halakha is like Rav Nachman, even though we say when Abaye, after the time of Abaye Rava, we paskin like the later authority, not like the earlier authority. In that case, yesterday we paskin like Rav Nachman, the earlier authority, and we explained that it was because Rava was debating with Rav Nachman. He was questioning Rav Nachman. He didn't make a legal statement different from that of his Rebbe. Today we have a case similar and different, where Abaye, a friend of Rava, Chavrusa of Rava, Abaye and Rava, the pair that we always talk about. So in this case we've got Abaye challenging his Rebbe, which is Rabbo. Not Rava, but Rabbo. So Rabbo and Rav Nachman are contemporaries, and Abaye and Rava are contemporaries. Yesterday we talked about Rava challenging Rav Nachman, and today we're talking about Abaye challenging Rabbo. The difference is we paskin like the Talmud, we paskin like Rava in today's case, not like the earlier authority. So why don't we apply the same principle? They're arguing, they're talking about an issue. In this case, we should paskin like the earlier authority, not like the later authority. The reason is, as we'll see, because Rabbo, the teacher, the Rebbe, changes his mind, he retracts, and he says to Abaye, you're right. And in the pursuit of truth, he withdraws. It's not easy for an authority like Rabbo, who is the Rosh Yeshiva of his time, the Godel B'Yisrael, the greatest Torah authority of his time, and his student challenges him in Beis Din, in a court, it's in public. He paskins, he gives a decision, his Talmud challenges him, and he says, you know what, you're right. And that's the role of humility in the way we learn, because humility is what enables a person to abandon the quest for being right in favor of the pursuit of truth. And we want to get to the truth, and he's saying, you know, Abaye, what you're saying, that's the emes, that is the truth. What is the case that we're talking about? The case here is Ze Omer Shelavutai v'Ze Omer Shelavutai. Two people claiming rights to the same field, same property. One says, this was my father's, this has been in my family for generations. The other one says, this has been in my family for generations. Hai Aiti Sahadi Da'avatihi. The one brings proof that it's been in his family for generations. V'hai Aiti Sahadi Da'achla Shnei Chazokeh. And the other one says, look, I can't bring proof about my ancestors, but I can bring proof that I've been here for more than 3 years, and nobody said anything. Omar Rabbo malo l'shakeri ba'omer li minach zavante ve'alcha la'aseh shnei chazokeh. Why would he be telling a lie? He could easily have said to his counterpart, I understand that it was your ancestors' field, but I bought it from you, and I've been here for more than 3 years. And we know he would be okay, he would win. Because if he's been there for more than 3 years, he doesn't need a shtar, he doesn't need a document, and we would accept his claim. Since he could easily have claimed that and won, we must assume he's telling the truth now too, otherwise why would he lie? So he has what we call a migu. Why would he tell a lie? Amale Abaye, so his Talmud Abaye says to Rabbo, Mali l'shakeh bimkom eidim lo amrinen. We don't use that logic when there are witnesses countering it. It's all very well if you've got no evidence, then you say, since he could have told a better lie, he could have claimed something better, and he didn't, he must be telling the truth. That's if we have no evidence. But here the other person has brought evidence that this was his ancestors, this belonged to his ancestors. Although the issue at evidence is not about the chazokah issue, but the issue was evidence. So this man says, I can prove that this was my ancestors. The other man doesn't say, yes, but I bought it from you. True, had he said that, he would have won, but he doesn't say that. So it's a chazokah she'eni ma'tana, as we learned yesterday. It's a chazokah where there's no tana. Chazokah only works, this proof of possession only works if after the 3 years, the owner comes to me and says, this is mine, and I say, no, I bought it from you, and I've been here for 3 years. But if I don't say I bought it from you, I'm saying it came from my ancestors, then we're not arguing about the same thing. The chazokah is no chazokah because there's no taina. You can't use the migu. You can't say it's because he could have claimed a better claim because there are witnesses against him. And therefore we shouldn't believe this person. It should belong to the man who brings proof that this belongs to his ancestors. Amarle, now look at the twist here. So now the guy who claims that that he was there for 3 years, he's been there for 3 years, you know what, you're actually right. Let me come clean. You are right. The avatachi, this was your ancestor's property. It was a venato minach, and I bought it from you. That's what really happened. So he's changed his taina. The question is, has he changed his claim in order to be truthful or in order to be right? And we'll see in halacha, because this is all in the halachot of toin v'nitan. When one learns to be a dayan, this is part of the first things that you learn, is how to manage a court case. And if a person changes his claim before witnesses come, we're talking about it, there are no witnesses yet, there's no decision of the Beis Din yet, a person just wants to modify his claim. Can he do so? And the issue is he pursuing truth or is he pursuing being right? And he says, so we say, so what did you claim before? Why did you tell us that it belonged to your ancestors? What I really meant was, I'm as secure in this property as you are who has it from your ancestors. I'm so sure this is as if I have it from my ancestors too. I was just talking about a level of certainty. I wasn't saying factually that this belonged to my ancestors. Toin v'chozer v'toin, or ein toin or chozer v'toin. May he claim and then revise his claim, or may he not do that? We have a machlokes Ula and Nahardoi. Ula says toin v'chozer v'toin. Ula says he can. Nahardoi, the school of Nahardoi, Amri eino toin v'chozer v'toin. He may not change his claim, and we paskin like Nahardoi that in this case he may not change his claim. The Tur brings the Rimigash. Remember the Rimigash, the Rebbe of the Rambam, the Talmud of the Rif, this very, very important link in the passage of Halacha. The Rimigash says, De'en to'en v'chezer v'to'en, ela dafka b'hakchisho ha'edim b'ta'ana rishona, aval kol zman shelo, it's got to be where there are no witnesses. Why? B'migu di'ibai kai ata'anate kamaita u'mifter matzinami ta'in ta'anata achrita. He says that the only time you're allowed to modify your claim is when you could have won with the first claim as well. Because if you could have won with the first claim, and now you're modifying it, clearly you're pursuing accuracy. You're just saying, you know what I said at first isn't absolutely truthful, let me give you the truth, but it's not being right. I was right to start. I'm not trying to gain anything, because my first claim I would have won in any case. I'm just modifying the facts, because I don't want to mislead you. I might have misled you in my first claim. In such a case, you can be chozer v'to'en, you can change your taina, you can change your claim. Which brings the Rashba to saying that in Tshuvas, in Shin Lamed Hey and Chelik Bet of Tshuvas, the Rashba says, and the Beis Yosef brings him, and the Kesef Mishnah brings him, Beis Yosef and the Kesef Mishnah, of course, it's the same person, and he says that, so you see from here that when Nahardor says you cannot switch your claim, that's only if your first claim would have made you chayav, you would have been guilty or obligated, and now you want to switch. There are no witnesses yet, there's no decision yet, you're still in the process of giving your claims, but you've put your claim out there, and you want to switch. The Beis Yosef explains it's very different also based on the Rashba. It's very different if you signed a document. As we learned yesterday also, once you put a signature, that's an action, that's different. But when you're talking, words are cheap. So yes, I said this, but I didn't really mean it that way, I meant it this way. Explains the Rashba, if what I originally said would have won me the case, but I'm now giving different facts that I didn't put there before, that's okay, we'll accept that. But if what I originally said would have lost me the case, and now I'm changing it to something that could win me the case, there we don't allow that. Because now what's driving you is the pursuit of being right, not the pursuit of truth. That's what changes here. So that's what the Rashba says. And based on that Rashba, the Kesef Mishnah explains the Rambam, and the Shulchan Aruch brings it l'halacha. Avalim yachol zakot bedin gam b'ta'ana rishona. If even with the first claim he could have won, yachol lachzor v'litonu zakot b'ta'ana acheret. He can come with a different claim, which also gives him victory in court. We'll accept that. So where does the Shulchan Aruch get this? If we now start at the Shulchan Aruch level, so we're learning to be Dayanim, we open the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Pei, and we see this halacha. The halacha is, if a person makes a claim in Beis Din and wants to modify the claim, provided he's not going from chiyuv to ptur, from obligated or guilty to free, provided he's going from free to free, I would have been right before and I'm right now, we'll accept it. If you're changing from chiyuv to ptur, if you would have been obligated before and now you're changing your claims as to become potter, that wouldn't be allowed. Where does that come from? So we see it comes from the Rimigash, because the Rimigash is the principle here is you could have stayed with the first one. So clearly this only works if you could have stayed with the first one. But if the first one would have got you into trouble, you couldn't have stayed with the first one. And in that case, Nahador says, as is in our case. And that's what's important in our case. What's driving this man to switch his claim? What's driving the man to switch the claim, explains the Rashbam, is he sees it's going against him. It starts off and it's going quite well for him. Because in the beginning, Rabbah says, Ma'alola Shaker, yeah, sure, this is a good claim, let's accept it. So he's very happy. And then he notices Abayas lean over to Rabbah and speak to him and question him. And he sees Rabbah nodding his head. And he realizes, now I'm in trouble. Now Rabbah is going to find that my claim is not valid. So let me change my claim. Let me modify my claim. In that case, Nahador says he can't. So that's where the Rimigash is getting it, because this is the source of it. And if you look in the Be'er HaGola, the Be'er HaGola was the grandfather of the Vilna Gaon. And he wrote little tiny notes on the side of the Shulchan Aruch, telling us what the source of each halacha is. And he says the source of this halacha is the Rambam. It's the Rambam as explained by the Rashba in Shuvas, because the Rambam doesn't go into this difference between if it's a claim that he could have won the first time or he couldn't have. The Rambam doesn't go into that. The Rashba modifies it, in the case of Mishnah brings the Rashba and explains that this is only if he's going from win to win, but if he's going from loss to win, he can't change his claim. What's the basis for that? It's where does the Rashba get that from? From the Rimigash. That's all fine. What's interesting is a brilliant Biur Hagro, the Vilna Gaon, that I want to share with you. Apart from anything else, the Vilna, you'll see here the difference between the Vilna Gaon and the Be'er HaGola, and I've spoken to you before, I think about the fact that it's always troubled me, not why the Vilna Gaon wrote the Biur HaGro. The Biur HaGro is also very brief notes on the Shulchan Aruch, linking the Shulchan Aruch's decisions to the Gemara or Rambam, just a few, very, very narrow, curated list of sources. But the main source, of course, is the Gemara itself. And the Vilna Gaon's sons and Reb Chaim Volozhin explained that the Vilna Gaon wanted to clarify the linkage between the Talmud and the Shulchan Aruch, the final law and the Talmud and what that source is. But it's always worried me that his grandfather already did that. Why write another whole sefer? And the Beis Yosef himself, the author of the Shulchan Aruch, did it. And I've often explained the Vilna Gaon is different because the Vilna Gaon doesn't see the Shulchan Aruch as a summary of the Tur or as a summary of the Beis Yosef. The Beis Yosef wrote a perush on the Tur, and then he wrote the Shulchan Aruch. The Vilna Gaon doesn't see the Shulchan Aruch as a continuation of the Beis Yosef. He sees the Shulchan Aruch as a text all on its own, a primary text where you need to understand the origin of each halacha in the Gemara itself. So if we look at the Be'er HaGola, he's only gone as far back as the Rambam and the Rashba, and maybe the Rimigash, the Rambam's Rebbe. That's how far back he goes. The Vilna Gaon's never satisfied with that. He likes to go back to the source of the sources. And the Vilna Gaon says, where does this din come from? Mimashe katav hadar amar le'in de tevat hadar yetera. It's from one word in this case study that the Rimigash learns his whole halakha. It's the word hadar. And we'll look at it in a moment. The Vilna Gaon says, V'ayin Rashbam sham hadar amar le'en de mishum she'ayu mafsidim. So if you look back at the Rashbam on the first page of the sources, hadar amar le, says the Rashbam, what does this mean, hadar amar le? Hadar means he responded with. That's what hadar means. So if you look at the case study again, Rabbah says, why would he be lying? Let's believe him. Abaye says, but there are witnesses against him. We can't use that logic when there are witnesses against him. The person, the litigant, Hadar, responds to that, realizing the case is going to go against him. It's that word Hadar, because the Vilna Gaon says it didn't have to say Hadar. It could just have said Omar le. And then he said, he changed his view. Hadar is emphasizing, as the Rashbam says, the mishum shayu mafsidin oto ka'abaya hu tzrach lachzor v'liton. The only reason he's changed his claim is he wants to be right, not true. What he said before was true. The reason that he's changing his mind now is because he sees the direction of the wind has changed, and now the halacha is going to be paskin like Abaya, not like his Rebbe, like Rabbo, and he's worried he's going to lose the case. So he's pursuing right, he's not pursuing true. And that's the meaning of Hadar. He retracts in response to Abaya's questioning of Rabbo, which Rabbo accepts. That little conversation going back on the bench of judges, that little conversation he picks up, and Hadar, and that forces him. That's what's motivating. That's what's driving him. And on that, Hadar says he's not allowed to go. So the din of Nahardor, like whom we paskin, that you cannot modify your claim, was given in this particular case, where your desire to modify your claim is to be right, to win, not to be truthful. But where it's to be truthful, as the Rimi Gash says, and I could have stayed with my first claim, the only reason I'm changing is to give more facts, to give more truth. It's not because I have to be right. I was right the first time, I was going to win the first time. That's completely different. And we see here, too, just from a learning perspective, we just see the Vilna Gaon, how the Vilna Gaon learns the Gemara, and the Rashbam. You can be sure that the Vilna Gaon wasn't just looking at the Shulchan Aruch and saying, where does he get it from? When the Vilna Gaon learned this Gemara and Rashbam, that's how he learned it. He said, Hadar is the key. So then when he looks at the Shulchan Aruch, he sees, yes, that's how the Shulchan Aruch understands it as well. Hadar is the key. That word Hadar, that the Rashbam picks on and expands and shows us that it's the Hadar. It's the response to Abaya that is motivating the retraction of the original claim. That's what makes it false. And so different from the case of Rabbah and Abaya themselves in having that conversation where the authority, the Rebbe, the Rosh Yeshiva, is willing to retract, not because he wants to be right. If he wanted to be right, he would stay with what he said, because he wants to be true, and he realizes that he's a young student. Abaya has the truth, and he acknowledges and accepts that. And that's something we've always got to look at ourselves when we're involved in arguments, when we're involved in disputes. And sometimes the arguments and disputes are only in our head. Somebody says something and we disagree. We don't say we disagree. It's not a real dispute. We just disagree. We disagree with lots of things. You read something, you hear something, you hear something on the news, somebody gives a speech, and you've already got an opinion. You agree, you disagree. Just always check in with ourselves. Am I disagreeing because I need to be right and I need to validate my own worldview? Or am I disagreeing in the pursuit of truth because I don't believe that what's being said is true? And the whole purpose of learning Torah and becoming engrossed in Torah is to train the mind and the character to be 100% committed to truth, no matter what it takes in terms of compromising of ego. That being right is totally unimportant. What's important is discovery of truth.